should you consider working as a federal government employee? Well, I sat down with a friend of mine recently. He works at the DoD, and if you're curious about the DoD, it's the Department of Defense. They're headquartered at the Pentagon, near the DC area. Technically, it's Virginia, but they have 750,000 employees. Now, as far as my friend, he works at Fort Belvoir, which is probably about 35 minutes away from DC. And he's worked for the DoD for 10 months as a program specialist, which falls under the 0300 job series. So I asked him, how did he get his job? His federal resume was 4 pages. He actually used the template that I use. And if you want to use it, you can download it. It's in the pinned comment down below. So he applied 25 different times. From applying, he was able to get 5 interviews. From those 5 interviews, he received 2 job offers. One was for a GS7 and the other was for a GS9. So he took the GS9, obviously, and that's the one that is at Fort Belvoir. Now, when it came time to interview, he only had 1 interview, and his hiring manager at the time, she was a little older and she was on her way out. She was about to retire. She didn't want to mess around with the computer. She didn't want to mess around with software, so she actually just called him on the phone. They had a brief interview, and then he got his job offer shortly after that. So I asked him, what are some of the pros and cons working for the DoD? And he said, for pros, it's pretty good if you're introverted. Like in his position now, he doesn't have to interact face-to-face with a lot of people. He does a lot of his work on the computer. He does a lot of it through emails. So if you don't want to deal with individuals, he says it's pretty good. Also, he mentioned military people get to buy their time back. And this isn't just with the DoD, this is pretty much every federal agency. If you're a federal government employee, you can buy back your time, whether you did 2, 3, 4 years in the Army. You can use that in order to increase the size of your pension in the federal government. Another thing that he mentioned is he has a big cubicle. He listed this as a pro, which made me chuckle a little bit because I don't know anybody else who would list a big cubicle as a pro, but in his previous job, he didn't have his own cubicle. He had to share it, or it was smaller. So he identified this as a pro. Another thing is he doesn't have to drive into DC every day. So when you're going to DC, there's a lot of traffic. Now there's traffic going to Fort Belvoir also, but there's not as much traffic, so he doesn't have to deal with that. Now for cons, this is in a medical treatment center. This is in a medical environment. So if you have a phobia about bacteria or germs, there will be a lot of sick people coming in and out of your building. That could be a potential con. Another con is that there's no teleworking. A lot of the providers that he has to receive and process their credentials, they don't want to do it completely through the computer system. Sometimes they want to actually drop off those papers, so he has to be there so he can scoop them up. Now, a lot of people have been retiring lately in his office, which has led to his workload increasing. It also should mean that they should be hiring soon, right? So there should be some more jobs in that office. But for the time being, he's having to take on more responsibilities. So what can help you get hired in a position like this? He told me that if you know Adobe, if you know how to edit the PDFs, and also Microsoft Excel, if you can clean up a spreadsheet, if you can reformat it, maybe manipulate some of the data in there, if you could do stuff like that, that would make you attractive for this position. What he does on a day-to-day basis, aside from emailing the providers, he also uploads documents into the database. And at times there could be 500 different providers. So there's a lot of organization and management that comes along with that. So I asked him, why choose government over contracting? And he said that he wanted something secure. He wanted something that was stable, that he can start earning a retirement towards to actually buy back those years. You can't do that on the contracting side. So I asked him, would you ever consider contracting in the future maybe? And he said that once he retires, he plans on retiring at 57. That's the early, if you're coming into the government right now, the earliest you can retire is 57. After that, he's thinking about maybe getting a contracting job because there's more money out there, but he wants something secure first. So once that revenue starts coming in on a monthly basis, he'll feel more secure and free to pursue the bigger money in the contracting side. So what can cause you to get fired in a job like this? Well, the closest story that he had was this lady who was hired by the chief. It was the chief's friend. You know, we all know that's not good, but It was the chief's friend, and she basically wasn't doing a lot of her work. She only performed probably at a 40% level, and even that, she was late with that. She was coming into work late. She was turning in assignments late. So it was a mess. But the chief wouldn't fire her, or she wouldn't put her under disciplinary measures because that was her friend. So once the chief retired, that lady knew she had to get out of there. So she quickly left because she knew that the next chief was not going to tolerate her performance. I also asked him, are you planning to change jobs anytime in the near future? And he says, actually, I already have an interview with the Department of Interior. So he's been applying. And the main reason for this is he wanted to escape the military culture because right now he's on a military base. And if you ever worked around military people, or if you were in the military, you know that there's a certain culture, and with that, you have to understand and memorize the rank system, and it's a lot of yes sir, no sir. So he said that was fine for a period of time, but now he wants to feel more like a civilian, so that's why he's looking at other opportunities. Finally, I told him, give me a rating. Rank the job that you have now. 1 being extremely dissatisfied, 10 being extremely satisfied, and he gave this job a 7. Now, if you are open to both contracting and government work, but you don't know which one you want to do, maybe you want to hear things more from the contractor perspective. If you want to know that, then I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.